Hi there. It's interesting to see what happens in Wisconsin. It is such a clusterfuck, let's say, of the people there, and they are just not responding in any significant way. They're protesting. That's fine. It doesn't really matter if you protest or not. You can close the window and that's it. You know, if people, there's just such an asymmetry in the well, let's say the level of effectiveness of both sides, which can only mean that the people that are organizing on the side of the Democrats and the unions are actually on the side of the people that are winning right now. You know, there's several aspects to it. One is that, of course, you know, so here's my key strategy to be effective against in the current situation, and that is simply make sure that you make the life of the people that you oppose difficult. And the problem is, however, that the opposing side, the Republicans, try to keep up the appearances that they use the law, but they're not, because they're disrespecting the whole process, because they are trying to get a law through their legislative body without a number of people present that should be present. So they're not doing it officially. But it's a win-win situation for the Republicans, because if people respect the law, then, well, they got the law through and everybody's screwed. If people get so demoralized about the judicial system and the laws that are created, they're going to, let's say, be less expecting of justice, so you can erode justice some more. Let's say, if once you start to believe that the rules are not made for you, but only made for a few that have the money to get somebody to enforce it in a court, like a lawyer or something like that, you get a two-tier legal system in which there's no justice for you. I just watched a video of a guy in Ireland that got completely screwed and put out of his house, and he had no recourse. So that's the way. If that happens, if people become so discouraged that they don't even try, then, well, it's a win too, once again. And the whole let's say process hinges on the belief of the people in some democracy, in a process in which they have something to say. Well, saying something doesn't matter at all. It's whether you have the fence, whether you have the locks, whether you have the guns, whether you have the contract. It's whether you have the friends that help you out legally in keeping that game going. And that way people get robbed by the Republicans. On the other hand, you know, so now the union workers are stripped of their collective bargaining rights. No, of course not. Well, they're stripped of their right to bargain. So how does it work? Well, at one time there wasn't a right to bargain, so they tried to bargain, and the police came and they beat them down, and they had to fight over it, and there was a big riot. And then, and maybe there was a criminal element, but it doesn't really matter. Yeah, of course, you know, you can have unions that have that are low-waged, less educated people, maybe in some cases, and they just band together and they support themselves. Well, that's fair. But so, in order to avoid those riots and those fighting events, they introduced laws, and people got a legal right to bargain, which was of course also meant because the people that they bargained with, the corporations and the companies, wanted to have some kind of organization, so they didn't have, let's say, shit hitting the fan all the time. So they got the right. But that doesn't mean that if you take away the right that you can do it. Of course you can do it. You know, it's pretty clear. The whole issue at the moment is that you have a group of people that you cannot really affect with an A. You cannot really touch them because they remove themselves from the general population, from the general public. They keep to themselves. They are hiding in their basically castles with moats, and you're not allowed in. So you cannot affect their way of life. So you cannot force them to do anything. At the same time, they do have, let's say, the law enforcement which is working for them to execute their rules and laws because they pay the salary of the law enforcement. And as a result, they do have a way to get into your life if you're a voter in the US right now. And that asymmetry will only increase and get stronger and stronger unless you stop it now. And the whole thing about, I think the whole thing about this Reagan-esque process in which you basically say, we want people to work for us as slaves. Basically, that's the whole key. That's the mentality. We want servants, and you're going to be my servant. And I'm going to say anything I want, anything I can make up. Doesn't really matter, as long as you behave like my servant and you don't get any ideas. A very important aspect of that strategy is to beat down any organization to on a very low level, when it's next to nothing. So you detect it and then you demoralize or make it ineffective, so that people don't see amongst themselves examples of how you really do it. You know, I'm not an advocate of violence, but how you really do get the attention of Wall Street is blocking their doors, and during lunch until the next few weeks, so they're locked in their skyscrapers, so they cannot go about their lives doing what they're doing. That's the whole basic thing. Well, that's illegal. Well, yes, what does it mean it's illegal? That they can drag you into court and then accuse you of blocking the exits of and maybe you get accused of I don't know, all kinds of shit can happen. The way it works on the other side is that you either become the mercenary that does the horrible thing for everybody else, or you just don't get noticed and you don't get rewarded. Maybe the same system should work on the other side too, that you basically say, well, we're gonna legally help this person and he's going to get into trouble doing something quite innocuous but very irritant to the opposite side. You can't just, you shouldn't be surprised if you walk down the street and you have like money hanging out of your pockets, and there's a robber, he sees that, he says, well, give me your $5 for your left pocket, and you say, okay, here. And you're oh, there's $10 in your other pocket, give me that. And there's $100 in your breast pocket, here, give me that, and you give it all the time. You shouldn't be surprised that you go home without any money, and maybe without your shirt. And he comes back with 3 friends that he now paid $5 each to mock you again the next day. It's so simple. So the only explanation that I have is that the side of the unions is infiltrated, and it's not. And I so recognize that from my energy experiences here, is that you get people that pretend to be on your side and that say, well, it's so hard to get it done, and it's so expensive, and the money is really not there, and we really have a long way to go, but we will work really hard. A little bit like Michael Moore. That's a complete shill. Well, he's not a voluntary shill, but he doesn't do it. He doesn't do it. He should be in, if he really is the revolutionary director, then he should get himself in jail. That's my opinion. I'm just looking, and I'm trying to figure out what's really happening, and it's pretty clear. If you don't touch any part of the lives of the ones that you are trying to affect, and then you have to completely discount words, who cares? It's basically, the two sides can be defined as the one side thinks that you can agree to do something, and the other side thinks that you have to make sure that there's nobody in your way when you're doing something. And those two sides don't communicate. On a very fundamental level, you're not communicating with the opposite side, because you think that what you say will go into the mix in their heads and make a difference, And it doesn't, because the only thing that they think when they hear something is, okay, so how does it make it more difficult for me to do what I want? And how can I make you shut up, go away, say something else, get out of the way, so I can do what I want? And so the people that are like that, that are clearly like that, and there's a lot of them, and you can very easily recognize them because they don't care about the truth. They don't care about if they tell complete lies. They're only about getting their way. And these people are not supposed to be in government. They're simply not leaders. See, they are not leaders, they are basically robbers. I guess it's a long video, but so you have a community with a leader, and he makes sure that everybody, if there's a problem, and then he resolves it, and maybe sometimes you need to be strong to do something, or you have to make an example, and he makes an example. He creates it so everybody moves with him, and he feels like part of that community. And then you have robbers that simply look around, see if there's anything. Oh, there's a beautiful girl there. Maybe I can rape her. You know, maybe there's a shed with some food in it. Maybe I can steal it. And I have a gang of robbers, and we work together, and we simply look at opportunities, and then we say, you know, you stand in the front door, talk to the farmer. I go to the back door, get his rake and his shovel and whatever he has for tools, and run for it, sell it in the next village, and have a life, and have lots of drinks in the evening, have a lot of fun, buy fancy clothes, walk around trying to pretend that I'm, you know, like the robber barons. They're still robbers, and they're still, you know, they don't belong in any democratic, in any people governed territory. They just don't belong there. It's my opinion. Thanks for listening.